Prättäkitti or Prättäkitti was a witch and a foreteller who, according to many stories, lived during the 1600s in Loimaa. There isn't an absolute certainty when exactly Prättäkitti existed in the Loimaa area, but it's assumed that she lived between the 1600s and 1800s. These are indicated by her prophecies, for example, about railways and airplanes, which didn't exist in the 1600s or 1700s. First steam engine left the station of Wales, Great Britain in 1804, and the first plane made by the Wright brothers took off in 1904. The first passenger railway of Finland was built in 1862 that connected Helsinki and Hämeenlinna. There are several stories about Prättäkitti sailing on the millstone, and there are also several different versions of the stories. However, some stories tell that Prättäkitti sailed on top of the millstone over the Loimijoki river. In some stories, the stone gets stuck at the bottom of the river and it forms into an island. It is also said that Prättäkitti sails either alone or with her child. In one story, the child looks back and drowns into the river. Looking back is forbidden because it ruins the magic. In one story, Prättäkitti sails on a millstone across the Loimijoki river, singing while Ypäjä Church was being built. Since Prättäkitti was a witch, she could do magic. According to one story, a mother noticed that someone had stolen all the family's money. She called Prättäkitti over and asked her to turn the thief into a wolf. When the witch had left, the mother heard howling coming from the bedroom. She got frightened that a wolf had gotten into her home and eaten her son, Yrjä. When mother peeked into the bedroom, she saw a wolf. However, the wolf looked very familiar and the mother recognized her son. The boy had stolen the money. One story tells that the boy slowly turned back into a human, but the wolf tail stayed. Prättäkitti was known as a fortune teller whose many predictions came true. For example, the church in Loimaa, which she predicted to burn when there are 3 8 digits in a year. The prophecy came true in 1888 when the church in Loimaa burned after being struck by lightning. Prättäkitti also predicted that the Loimaa church would collapse in 1999, killing many people. However, this did not happen, but in the same year when the accident should have occurred, part of the church ceiling plaster fell down. As previously mentioned, Prättäkitti predicted a railway and an iron bridge that would be driven over by an iron horse-free carriage. This prediction came true when a railway bridge was built across the Loimijoki river in the 1800s. Prättäkitti has also said how the world is girded with an iron belt, and many believe that Prättäkitti meant railways. The witch was said to have planted 2 pine trees and predicted if one of the trees fell, the village of Eura would disappear, and if the other tree fell, the village of Köyliö would vanish. And so it was that the village of Köyliö burned down. She also predicted the Great Fire in Turku, 1827. Even the end of the world Prättäkitti saw from the juniper tree in Kauhanoja, Loimaa. There were multiple and different kinds of attempts to execute Prättäkitti, but she was difficult to kill. People went to seek advice from other witches who said that people had to hack 3 rowans and sharpen their tips and impale Prättäkitti's head with them. Then she couldn't enchant. The villagers did as they were told, and they finally killed the witch. However, the witch caused a lot of marvel even after her death. According to the stories, Prättäkitti's coffin was so heavy that the persons carrying it had to take several breaks. In one story, people looked inside the coffin and noticed how a big snake was wrapped around Prättäkitti's head. In another story, Prättäkitti's coffin was transported with horsepower. The coffin was really heavy in this story as well, and not even a few horses could pull it. The coffin was believed to be followed by devils who made the coffin heavy. The horses had to stop for a break, and then ravens flew on top of the coffin. Eventually, the coffin was hauled to Perttula cemetery. However, the coffin did not remain in the grave but flew to the nearby spruce. Several attempts were made to bury the coffin in the cemetery, but to no avail. The coffin just flew to the spruce. Eventually, Prättäkitti was laid to rest at the foot of a hill, and today a large juniper tree grows there. However, there are various rumors about Prättäkitti's graveyard, but the common belief is that it's located in the Loimaa area. In 1960, a poltergeist was rumored to be causing havoc in Teppo's house. However, this can be based on the belief that the house keeps its way. That is, if bad things happen in the house, it is believed to be the general way of the house, and thus the reputation of the house always stays.